Welcome, Alissa Doehla, to the 18 Pro Squad. I'm super excited to have you with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, and I'm super excited to be here and on the team.
Yeah. Um, Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to triathlon. Introduce yourself for us.
Yeah, I'm originally from Indiana and currently living back in Indiana again in the kind of upper northeast corner in Fort Wayne. Um, Not a triathlon mecca, but we make it work. It's my husband's hometown too, and family is really important to us, so we're happy to be here. Yeah, I kind of got to triathlon through running. Um, had sort of a couple rough years at running, and was unsure of what was coming next. Was getting married. Just had a lot of life changes happening, and thought, you know what, I've done running at a really high level since I was 15 years old, and maybe it's time to just like take a break and see what could come next. I thought about grad school. I was just kind of exploring not being an athlete anymore too. But with a wedding dress already fitted for 130-mile-a-week runner, I thought I'd better do something. And I always kind of said I wanted to try triathlon as this like far out, like done running, just something to do, and was like, well, I'll try it now. And did a race, and it went well, and somehow got my pro card, and then ended up doing it professionally. Like, it was a very weird, not what I was like intending it to be. And I feel terrible for my husband, who thought he was marrying a professional runner and ended up with a professional triathlete, which is like a much different thing. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of how I got there.
Oh, that's so funny. I kind of feel similar. Obviously, I'm not a professional. I'm simply an age grouper, but my husband thought he was marrying a cyclist, and then I won free entry to every single race in the state for our year of marriage. So I was like, "Oh, I'll take the year off and we'll get married and we'll bike together." And then I was like, "Never mind. I'm just going to keep doing triathlon." And we got married in a place that you're very familiar with, Blowing Rock, North Carolina, which is gorgeous. And you were a professional runner with Zap Fitness out of there. So, how did you find that transition from professional runner to triathlete? You're picking up two other disciplines in the process. How did that go for you?
Yeah, I would, like you said, I was really, really lucky to get to run professionally in the mountains of North Carolina, which was an amazing experience. I recommend Blowing Rock to people all the time as like a great place. We would have triathletes. That's kind of how I found a triathlon coach, is because we would have triathletes come up and stay at ZAP. It was kind of a event center, retreat center type thing. So people would come and train. And I've never trained there as a triathlete myself yet, but it is just a great place to do it. So if you need a kind of a getaway, that's a great place to go. But yeah, I was really lucky to run for a long time and get to do it even after college and see how fast I could be. And then I swam growing up. From the time I was like old enough for my mom to drop me off at the pool with my sisters. I have two older sisters who both swam. So I think it was kind of they do it, I need an hour and a half to myself. You're going to go too. So probably from like 4 until I was a sophomore in high school, I swam. And had kind of some rough middle school years medically that just sort of, I didn't get to swim for long chunks of time. Had back surgery in 8th grade, and just it kind of, coming back to it, I just didn't love it as much anymore. So I started running after that back surgery to get back into shape for soccer. And then, so I did have like a swim, but it had been almost 15 years since I'd swam. In the interim, I had popped in the pool like one time with my sister's 9 to 10-year-old age group, because she was a swim coach, and thoroughly got my butt kicked by 9-year-olds in a way that was like demoralizing. And I was like, I'm never ever getting in the pool again. That was awful. But yeah, just when I started swimming again, it was more like weightlifting, because I couldn't even use my arms fast enough to get my heart rate up, which was a strange place to be too. But after a little bit of time, like it did come back. I don't think I'm ever going to be like, you know, that fast of a swimmer, but I can hold my own at this point now. And then, cycling I had never done at all, and borrowed a bike for the first year, which was great. My sister has a friend who happens to be my size and is like the most generous human being like on the planet, and was like, here, yeah, you can take my 2 bikes and borrow them for a year. And sure, I just kind of got to try it that way. I was not, I would say, super apt at it at first. My brother went with, I was very nervous to get outside riding, and especially in aero. And I made my brother come with me on the first ride I did outside. And he drove my dad's truck behind me. I was like, just in case like anything goes wrong, like I'm super nervous. And we got done and he was like, I've never been so scared for a human being in my life. You're so wobbly. You're terrible. I was like, oh no. And my mom was like, that was a week of my wedding too. And I fell over 3 times at the same stoplight. My mom was like, you can't ride outside again until after you get married. Like, you can't be all scraped up for this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I've gotten better since then. And yeah, so it wasn't maybe the smoothest transition, but I found that I really liked just having the 3 different disciplines, and racing especially. I think it makes it exciting, because if one thing doesn't go that great, there's so much time and opportunity for the next 2 to go better, or the run to go better. I mean, I think I found that out in my first race that I did. I was like 6 minutes behind the first place girl off the bike, and was like, I mean, in a running race, you're never going to make that up, even over 10K. I mean, that just doesn't happen. And I just was like plugging away. And next thing I knew, like with 1,200 to go, she's right there. And I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. This would never, ever, ever happen in a running race, And I think I passed her with like 800 to go, and was like, huh? Like, it's a 6-minute deficit. But just realizing that everyone has their different strengths, and you could come up on someone who's not a very good runner and find yourself, in a much different position than you were getting off the bike or coming out of the swim. So I really liked that aspect of it, and it kind of just sucked me in kind of immediately.
That's awesome. It's cool that you had a swim background. I'm very jealous. I grew up in the water, but never competitively. So like, I love the water, but I see the swim team kids, all the 11-year-olds like in the lane next to me, and I'm like, don't race them. You're doing your own workout. They are just amazing to have that sort of background. And then how are you coming along with the bike now? Because we'll have you on an A² bike this year. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I really, really am. I've really enjoyed cycling. I've come to love it so much. And I think, because some of what I love about running, like besides the competitive aspect, is just being outside and exploring new places. And you just get to do so much more of that on the bike. You can cover so much more ground and see so many more things. Like, just being back in our hometown, seeing parts of town that I've never seen before. And it's just cool. I think that riding, and it's a lifelong thing too. It's a lifelong sport. So just getting to get acquainted with it, get comfortable with it. And it's kind of everything that I love about running, but kind of on a, more global, you can see so much more on a bike. So yeah, I've come a long way, and I really like it, and we're working hard still. So hopefully I can come even farther with it.
Awesome. We look forward to watching that. So exciting for me having a female triathlete, for sure. Can you tell us what sort of challenges or maybe even advantages come from being a female triathlete?
Yeah, I mean, I think more and more we're realizing how women are like so well suited for endurance sports. And so just getting to be a woman in an endurance sport is exciting, because I think we're just naturally suited for it. And then I mean, I think it's cool to be in triathlon right now. I wasn't in this sport, and even in running, when there were a lot of disparities in like prize money and things, but I feel really lucky to get to be in this era where like we have the same world championship that men have. We have the same prize money. We have like the same opportunities. And I think too, with like I'm really enjoying the challenge races where they're totally separate, and the women are like, we're out there by ourselves, because then you don't have, it's not all the time at Ironman races, but you'll have age group men coming through that just kind of change your race in a way that like the men don't really have to deal with. But getting to do these races where it's like just us and like seeing how women can shine at the same, kind of level as men is pretty exciting. And yeah, so I'm just pumped to be getting to do it and to be getting to represent A2 as the kind of one woman on the team right now, which is fun.
Yeah, I'm determined to like expand that for sure. So we'll see. It is really fun to watch women in our sport. And it's one thing I think I'm proud of with triathlon is that there seems to have been an effort through the evolution of the sport to try and give us equal footing. And I've yet to do an all female race, but I know some of the 70.3 world championships try and split it out as well. And I just think that would be amazing to have that for sure.
Yeah, it's so cool to get to be out there with just women. And in running, there's like some only women races that I've gotten to do. And it's a fun environment, just like women out there supporting other women. And yeah, so hopefully we see more of that because it is really fun.
And it was really fun watching you at Challenge Daytona in December. Like they have on the TV, they had the leaderboard, the top 20, and they would cycle through. And as you got off the bike, I don't remember exactly what spot you're in, but I think it was higher than 20. But it was just like every lap, every quarter mile, here comes Alissa Doehla coming up, coming up, coming up. And you finished in 11th place. So, I mean, you were doing the race. Tell us about it. How did it go? And how did you feel doing that one?
Yeah, I felt really good about it. It was kind of a race that going into it, we had to be there pretty early. So there was a lot of just, seeing everyone. And I haven't gotten to do World Championships yet. I was supposed to do 2020s. And so I haven't really been in that level caliber of a field yet. So it was just kind of this everyday sort of, you could really get caught up in like, okay, like this person's here, this person, I'm seeing them at all these meetings and everything. And I kind of was like very nervous, just, I really just didn't want to be last in the swim. Like had this thought that I was really going to be last and that was kind of weighing on me. And they just didn't really have any idea of where to think I would be in that field. I think I could have ended up 30th and been like, oh wow, if that was great, that was the best I could do today, and I'm happy with 30th. I don't think I anticipated being 11th or in that sort of realm at all. I think my coach did, but like we don't really talk a lot about outcome goals, where he's very process oriented, which I appreciate and enjoy. So just we didn't really put numbers on things. So it was just like, we'll just see what shakes out, which is also part of what I love about sport. And I think why I've been, in athletics for so long is just, I like stepping on the line and saying like, I'm just going to do the best that I can do today amongst like amazing people and see, it's exciting to see like, where will this shake out, And so, yeah, I didn't anticipate being 11th, and it really like gives me a lot of encouragement for the future. Just like, knowing there's still room to grow and getting to be 11th in that kind of field. But I did it's embarrassing to tell your bike sponsor this, but I did crash.
Not on her bike though, so it's okay.
Not on your bike. And exactly. And I was like, well, I guess you're going to do like one last race on a bike. Why not mess it up now? Yeah, I just like lost focus going into T2. And I think I was so excited to get off my bike. And I think I was in 15th and was like, okay, like this is, I get to run now, I was so excited and just like stepped out of the moment while taking my foot out of my shoe for just long enough that like, I honestly still have no clue how I did it. And next thing I knew, I was on the ground and it was like, oh my golly. And just like watching people go past. And, but it was an interesting, like, I think it might be one of my more proud moments as a athlete, just that like, I got up and was like, well, my bike's not broke. I can just put this chain back on and I'll just ride it in and see if I can run. And if I can run, then I just have to try. And, I think a big thing that my coach and I talk about a lot is kind of knowing your why, like why you're doing it. And I was really glad in that moment that we have talked about it a lot because after like my family and like glorifying God with gifts, like thinking of my husband, who's like my number one reason, and my coach, were like, I cannot disappoint them. My husband was there, my coach wasn't, but just being like, I have to keep moving forward. Like, that's all that they would want from me. We've done so much just to be here, and it's the one thing we get to do this year. You have to at least try. And I think if I hadn't like really known my why, I would definitely have been very tempted to stop because things were hurting, and I just was embarrassed. I was more like embarrassed and just like mortified that like I went from 15th to like 30th in 2 minutes, and was just like, what, how did that happen? And was just like, yeah, mortified. Like, I definitely ran from a place of shame. Shame is powerful. I know we're not supposed to do things from shame, but it really did a lot for me that day. It was just like, just keep going and see. And it was like, well, nothing's like, I'm not going to injure anything further by continuing, you know? So it was like, let's just go. And I was passing people, and that helped. You know, it's like, okay, I'm clipping off people. And that definitely gave me a lot of encouragement along the way. And it was like, well, you got through 1 lap. After 1 lap is 2 laps. You get through 2 laps, you only have 2 laps more. You know, just as like mind games you're playing with yourself. So at the end of the day, it was like, I was very, very happy with 11th because I never ever thought I'd be 11th, but I was also super mad, and still am, that it was like, well, if you hadn't crashed, you probably would have been a good bit higher than 11th. So, I mean, I feel like I surprised a lot of people in being 11th, but was like, you would have surprised people more if you'd been, you know, 7th. So come on. But it just gives me like a lot of, you know, encouragement for next year, and just a lot of like fuel for the fire of just like, you can beat even more people, and, you know, be even higher the next time around. Just don't lose focus when you're still riding your bike, you dummy.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing that with us. I think, you know, as age groupers, maybe watching these races on TV, we only really get shown like the top 3 positions, and you just don't really know what's going on otherwise. And hearing that you guys go through the sort of same struggles and the mental battles that we do when we're out there, and I think we've probably all done that. We'll just try the first lap and see how it goes, and turn it into 2, 3, 4, and it's great. I did want to ask you, how was that bike course? Because when I watched that, because it's so repetitive, thinking of myself as a cyclist, I just think, oh, I would not enjoy that. But as a spectator, it was like, oh, this is great. We just get to see everyone go around. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. I didn't know how it would feel being out there, and they had like they had your laps every time you went around on a board. So I just like stopped looking, just like focused on effort and power, and was just like, I'm just not going to look at the board for a while, just to like not be, because it was 20 laps, and it just seemed really long when you first got going. And so I just really tried not to look. I looked at, you know, the penalty sign every time, because that was the other thing that was really, I mean, that helped kind of break it up, because you could never really check out too much, because you were constantly coming up on people or being passed by people, and having to really make sure that you were maintaining distance, which I think I did. I mean, I didn't get penalties, so it was great, but I also was like definitely not in a very good position for a lot of the race, because I think I was like head up so much more, just because I was so worried about 20 meters, which was also like, I do a lot of Ironman races, so we're not used to 20 is a lot more than 12. And so it was just, there was a lot of that thinking through. But it was actually a lot better than I thought it would be, just doing that many laps. It went quicker than I thought, really. But yeah, you really just kind of had to trick yourself into like not looking at like, oh my God, I still have 17 laps to go. And it feel, you know, I tried to focus on just like time and power just more than anything else. But it was definitely a very strange experience just to be right there that whole time. Like, you didn't go anywhere. Very odd.
Yeah. Was there anyone in particular, we're talking about being starstruck? Was there any athlete or athletes in particular that you were like, oh my God, that's so and so? I went to the age group world championships in 2019, and I was like, oh my God, that's Javier Gomez, like right there. You know?
Yeah, I think it was less like struck and more just like, okay, this is getting very real, of like, these women are very, very, very good. And like, I just have no clue if I can hang with them, if I can't. Like, it was less like I'm in awe of you and more just like, where do I fit with this? And so just like this big unknown feeling, I guess. And yeah, just kind of be like, this is going to be very strange. And I was very worried about the swim start too, just because I don't think I've been in like that big of a swim start with that many really good swimmers. And yeah, so that was, surviving the swim was like a huge high for me too. I'm just like, okay, I got through the start and I did pretty good. I found some feet. Like, I don't know. The whole day was just kind of like surreal in some ways, but good, like very good experience. And in a way that like a lot mattered, it was like a lot of prize money, but at the end of the day, it really didn't, because 2020 was so stinking weird that there was this feeling of like, there's pressure to be in this big of a field and this good of a field, but there's also not, because I feel like nobody really knows kind of what's going on. So it was kind of a good race, I think, too, to make what I would say was like a pretty big mistake and fairly terrible, but also to like learn that, again, what I love about triathlon is like you can mess up and the day is so far from over. Like, just get back up. And I feel like I keep learning that, but I mean, isn't that so much of sport? Is like we relearn the same things until like we finally get it, and it's like second nature to just do those things. But yeah, so I was glad to kind of learn that lesson and like, okay, this is something like not just like I didn't ride the power I wanted to ride. This is like probably the bigger thing that could happen in a race is crashing. So it's like, okay, you can keep going from that. And so I was happy to also just like realize, okay, you can come back and you can be fine and pick yourself up and keep going and vindicate yourself. And then it's not as embarrassing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's a great thought for all of us to have, just to, it's not over till it's over, basically. And triathlon, it's so fun to see that happen over and over and again. And triathlon is really inspiring.
It is. And it really is what I like the most about it. I think it's just like, it is not over until you cross that line. So keep going.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, hopefully in 2021, you'll be towing the line with some of these bigger names again, and putting yourself out there. I know it's a little bit unknown because it's still COVID-19 is a big question mark, but you are signed up for Challenge Miami on March 12th. So can you tell us a little bit about what sort of COVID-19 protocols are in place for the pros to make sure you guys can race safely? And then what sort of goals do you have for that race?
Yeah, we haven't really heard too much yet. I guess I'm kind of just going off of, I mean, it's the same people putting on the races did Daytona. So before Daytona, we had to get a test. And then you had to get one when you got there. So I kind of assume they'll probably do the same kind of thing. And then it was just, masks everywhere. And I mean, I felt super safe. It was like, everything you're supposed to do, just wear your mask, wash your hands, a lot of hand sanitizer, and they had us get the negative test before coming, and then also when we got there. So I'm kind of just assuming that it'll be the same, but I haven't heard yet. And then, yeah, goals for the race. I mean, I don't know who will be there, but really just the same as like always, like execute the race plan as we sort of design it before the race, and then just like fight, really big on just like never giving up, fighting, and like getting a little bit angry and just, running angry. So it's worked before. So I'll probably just do it again, try to get pissed off somewhere and just run hard. So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited. I feel like 2020, we did so much hard work, and it was fun to finally like get to race, like realizing like that's why we all do it, because we enjoy racing. Like, I know people like to train, some people, and I'm kind of that way too, but it's kind of too hard to do if you don't get to do the fun stuff. So it was really fun to get to do Daytona, and hopefully we can kind of get back to racing a little bit, because that is why we all like to do it. I mean, you got to justify all these hours somehow by getting to actually race sometimes. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed is right. It's been a long time since I've had a race. It would be great to be out there again. What sort of ways are you going to make yourself angry without falling off the bike? That's my question.
Yeah, I think my grandma, I love when I'm racing, I like to think through kind of, and it's, I have great men in my family too, but I like to think through like the women in my life, and like they're all so strong in different ways, and just kind of like channel each of them differently. But my mom's mom was this like tiny little lady, and one time she asked me to help her move her like big dresser. It was so big, so big. And I was not even late. I just wasn't early enough. And I got there and she had already moved it herself. And I was like, Grandma, how did you do that? And she's like, Alissa, I just sit here and I got angrier and angrier and angrier. And you could do anything if you just get mad enough. So I tend to just try and like, a lot of times it'll just be like I'm frustrated at like, maybe I'm not riding the power I want to ride, or, in Waco 2 years ago, I thought I was like in 5th place and I was not seeing anybody. Like, where are these people? Like, I'm riding so hard. Where is everyone? And then I was just getting madder and madder and madder. And then I got off my bike and I was in 1st. And I was like, what? Like, I had no idea how it happened, but I just got like so angry. So it's usually like little things I just find, like, if you crash your bike, you get mad, or like things generally will happen while you're racing that'll make you mad. Or I just like end up just, getting mad at how I feel or whatever. But it's like that balance, right? Of like, don't get too mad, find that right arousal level so you don't go like too far one way or the other. But I do try to channel my grandma Leora and get a little bit angry, because you can do anything if you're mad enough.
Oh, that's awesome. Channeling the ancestors. I like it for sure. That's cool. How do we follow you this year, Alissa? I know we're going to have more interviews with you on the A Squared Bikes page, but outside of A Squared, how can we follow Alissa Doehla?
Yeah, I'm just at Alissa Doehla, I think, kind of across the board. And then we have a website, alissadoehla.com. You can follow me there too. I always have like racing schedule up, and there weren't very many pictures to update it with from 2020, but we try to kind of change out pictures from races and different things. But that's how you can follow along.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us. We will be definitely watching out for Challenge Miami and all the other races. And I look forward to talking to you about those races and everything else that comes up. So thank you.
Cool. Yeah, great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.